Guys, yesterday I did a video that if Kell Brook wins, what happens next? Today I'm going to do a video if Terence Crawford wins, what happens next? You know, Terence Crawford is the rightful favorite in the fight. You know, he's favored to beat Kell Brook. And if he does what, you know, the bookies and everybody and most boxing fans around the world expect him to do and win, what's next for Terence Crawford? Terence Crawford must fight. There's only 2 fights that I want to see next, right? For Crawford. It's as simple as that. Anything else for me will be deemed unacceptable. And or 3 fights, but one of them I don't think is going to happen. I want to see Thurman, I want to see Spence, or I want to see Pacquiao. Pacquiao's not going to happen. Pacquiao wants mega paydays, and I don't think Crawford's one. I think Pacquiao's going to be looking at a McGregor fight or Mikey Garcia fights that are a lot easier and bigger paydays for him. So the 2 fights that I think are realistic and should be made, and PBC should be looking to make those fights and stop ignoring Terence Crawford, is Thurman and Spence. They're the only 2 guys. You know, people talk about Porter. I've never been a huge fan of Sean Porter, and I don't want to see Sean Porter fight Terence Crawford. I want to see Keith Thurman or Errol Spence. Preferably Errol Spence, but I wouldn't mind Keith Thurman either. Those are the 2 guys that I think Terence Crawford would get credit for if he beats. Because if he beats Sean Porter, he's not going to... Yeah, Sean Porter, people view him as a legit welterweight. However, let's not forget, Sean Porter's lost multiple times. And not just that. For me, Sean Porter, best win. What's his best win in his career? A Garcia split decision? A fight that could have easily been a draw? Like, split decision. In my opinion, he lost to Ugas and got a gift decision. Right? Really, the guy should have 4 losses on his record. I thought he got outboxed by Ugas. He definitely lost that fight. The Garcia fight was close. That could have gone either way. I don't call that a robbery. The Ugas fight, though, he lost that one, and he got that that was a gift decision for me. So I'm not interested in Porter. I want to see Thurman or Spence next. It's as simple as that. You know, I think the fans need to see those fights. You know, I've always been intrigued to see Keith Thurman fight Terence Crawford, and I've always been intrigued to see Spence. I want to see how Terence Crawford does against those guys. I think those are the 2 fights that I would like to see Terence Crawford take. Well, not take it. It's down to the PBC whether they're you know, Spence and Thurman step up to the plate. Now, the fight that I think is more realistic, right? However, I say that even Spence, once he beats Garcia, where's he gonna go? Unless Thurman and Spence fight one another, which is a possibility, and then Crawford will be left alienated again, right? If those 2 don't fight one another next, then Crawford needs to fight one of them. Now, if I was Thurman, right? I would be jumping at fighting Crawford if he has confidence that he beats Terence Crawford. Right? Because for me, I think that's an easier fight for him. Just because I think Crawford's not that big a puncher. Although stylistically, Crawford's very good. He's a very slick boxer. And I think he could outbox Thurman. However, I will say that I don't think it's as dangerous a fight. I think Spence is more dangerous for Thurman. He's bigger, stronger. He punches hard. You know, he's a pressure fighter. Comes forward and he breaks pipes, whereas I don't think Crawford's like that. So personally, I think Thurman should jump at a Crawford fight. If he believes in himself, not pricing himself out, asking for stupid money, 10 million, but ask for a reasonable purse, for me, that fight should potentially... I think those are the only 2 fights that I think the fans would accept. You know? And I personally think the Thurman fight needs to happen next. I think... Thurman should jump at the opportunity to fight Terence Crawford. I think it's a great fight for him. It's a great opportunity for Thurman to show that, you know, he's a top boy again. You know, because I think a lot of people think Thurman's past his best. But you know, when I mean past his best, they don't think he's got the same hunger, the same desire he once had. They just think he's become a businessman and he's just looking to make a few paychecks. Now Thurman, if he can beat someone like Terence Crawford, that puts him in a great position in the welterweight division again. And let's not forget, Crawford is seen as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, so you'd also be beating one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world as well. So I think that fight for me makes a lot of sense. But again, if Spence beats Garcia, where does that leave Spence? Because if Pacquiao's not going to fight Spence, apart from fighting Thurman, hasn't really got anyone to fight where it's going to be credible. Unless Spence moves up weight, which I don't see, Spence has got nowhere to go. Really, he's got to fight Thurman or Crawford. There's no other fight for him. Who else is he going to fight? Ugas? He's not going to fight Ugas. He would have beat Garcia. He's fought Sean Porter. Who is there for him to fight apart from Thurman and Crawford? So really, the next fight for Crawford and for Spence and Thurman should be against one another. It should be against one another. Maybe Danny Garcia, if Danny Garcia loses, maybe that may be a fight for Crawford. But then again, he's lost. So again, Crawford's not going to get the credit for fighting Danny Garcia because he's just been beat. So like I said, I think, for me personally, I think the only fights that will make sense is a triangle. I think Thurman should jump at the opportunity. Listen, Thurman's not got a fight right now. Spence is not fighting till December, right? Crawford's going to fight November 14th. If Crawford comes through that, Thurman should be chomping at the bit to get his hands on Crawford. And they should negotiate a fight for maybe March or April next year. That's what I think should happen. But Thurman needs to be realistic. Not ask for $10 million. I think they could potentially, I think Bob Arum probably needs to get in touch and maybe, because Thurman's got nowhere to go. You know, Spence may not want to fight Thurman now. Because Thurman, we all know Thurman ducked Spence initially. Spence might not want to fight Thurman. So for me personally, I think Thurman should look to become world champion again. And if he can beat Terence Crawford, which again, he'll be an underdog against Crawford. But like I said, I think Thurman has the ability and talent to beat Crawford. You know, and let's not forget, Thurman's a lot more highly rated amongst the boxing fans than Kell Brook is. So Terence Crawford will get a lot more credit for beating Thurman than he will from, like there's already fans poo-pooing that Kell Brook fight, saying that Kell Brook's past his best. And I can see all the excuses if Crawford does manage to beat Kell Brook. I can see all the excuses already. So whereas a Thurman fight, Thurman's legit. There's no excuses. He hasn't had broken eye sockets. He's not drained at the weight. You know, the only loss he had against Manny Pacquiao. But, you know, that's alleged. Yeah, I know Manny Pacquiao was 41. There's a lot of vulnerabilities in Thurman, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of vulnerabilities in Keith Thurman. Don't get it twisted. You know, the guy's body resistance isn't the greatest. When he gets hit with a body punch, he really starts to struggle. And I just think there are a lot of weaknesses in Thurman's game. However, if Thurman wants to get back on track, he needs to fight Crawford or Spence. And I think a fight with Terence Crawford, for me, makes a lot of sense for Keith Thurman, because I think it's a fight where he'll look at it and he'll think that Crawford's vulnerable. I'm a big puncher. I'm a big welterweight. If I land one on him, he could go to sleep. And Thurman's explosive. He's very an explosive fighter. Like when he fought Garcia in the first round, he hit him with the right hand. He's very explosive. He hits his shots out of the blue. Like it will explode in and he'll catch you. He's very explosive like that, Keith Thurman. But as we've seen, there's a lot of vulnerabilities in his game also. So yeah, I think those are the only two fights that I think Crawford should have next if he beats Kell Brook. I don't think there's any other fight that really I'm interested in, to be honest. I'm not interested in any other fight. I want to see Crawford v Spence or Thurman. Those are the only two fights that I want to see personally if Crawford wins. I don't want to see Porter. I don't want to see Garcia. I want to see Crawford fight Spence or Thurman, because listen, let's not forget, Thurman beat Porter and Garcia, and Spence has beaten Porter and he's fighting Garcia. So really, Garcia and Porter will be in the Who Needs Me club, right? And the thing is, Crawford's in a position where he's not going to be able to choose. It's whether the PBC and those guys decide to fight him. But like I said, Thurman right now is not champion. That's a great opportunity if he's reasonable with what he wants from a purse point of view, and ask for reasonable money. I'm pretty sure they'd be able to pay him 5-6 million. But like I said, his guaranteed purse for Pacquiao was 2 million or 2.5 million, something like that. So you can't be going and asking for 10 million. That's crazy money. You know, that just shows you're trying to price yourself out the fight. You don't really want it. You just, if the deal's too good to be turned down, then you'll take it. But that's not how you do business, really. That's not showing that you really want the fight. That's not showing ambition. That's just showing that you want to be a great businessman. Keith Thurman's got to get that hunger, desire back. And I think a fight with Terence Crawford, for me, makes a lot of sense. And it's a fight stylistically that I think is a great fight as well. That's why I want to see it. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comment section. Who do you want to see Terence Crawford fight if he beats Kell Brook next? Who do you want to see him fight? Leave your thoughts, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.